Hello again, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about the different kinds of essays that you may have to write both on your exams and during your university career. Now let's analyze what kinds of essays you may be required to write on timed exams or during your university career or in general. So, the first is the descriptive essay, where you must simply describe something, usually an issue or a problem. Next is the persuasive essay, where you must persuade or convince your audience that your viewpoint is correct. And third, the expository or the explanatory essay. And we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end. So, we should mention first that each essay presupposes different writing aims. So let's analyze each of these in terms of their aims in a little bit more detail. First, the descriptive essay, well, this speaks for itself. Just like I said before, it seeks to create an image in the reader's mind, and there's no exact format for writing it. The language of this essay must be bright and full of descriptions, intensifying words, adjectives. For example, here, the phrase, "the woman was sad," is inappropriate. Here, the woman was feeling melancholy, her face flooded with tears, and anyone could observe deep dismay written all over her. If you have to write a descriptive essay, remember that it's obligatory to describe objects in order to properly create the image, to paint the picture for your reader. Now, topics of the descriptive essay can be the following: your room, your childhood memories, your life-changing experience, your pet, or the best teacher of your life. Now, let's move on to the second type, the persuasive, otherwise known as the for or against essay. Now, this essay is very close to the explanatory type. You should present the topic, collect and evaluate the evidence, as well as, and this part is mandatory, writing your personal view of the issue highlighted in the essay. For example, should you stand for or against the topic? And the most common topics for the persuasive essay are: should a school uniform be obligatory? Does surfing on the internet make you feel bad? Junk food, are you for or against it? And do your teachers use technology well? Now, the third type of essay, and the most commonly used essay on timed exams and during schools and university careers, would be the expository or the explanatory essay. And here your task is to inform your audience and to explain the problem to them. To complete this, you need to evaluate the evidence, present an idea, and support your ideas with arguments. Here, you must have been taught in school that essays consist of the following parts, and we have also mentioned these: the introduction, to introduce your central idea, the main body, 3 paragraphs usually. These back up the central idea. They support the main thesis or the main point of your essay. And finally, the conclusion. And in the conclusion, you do not just repeat the thesis and you do not introduce new ideas, but you summarize everything that you have discussed. Now, the same structure is applicable here. First, you need to introduce your central idea, and then back this up in the main part. And finally, simply conclude. But there's one very strong rule here that you should always follow, and it is no surprises. When you introduce your thesis in the introduction, it should be completely introduced. Don't wait until the 3rd or 4th paragraph to say, "Oh, by the way." Don't do that. You want your reader to be able to expect everything that will come in the essay from the introduction. And similarly, in the conclusion, you should not add new information. You should simply summarize. Now, common topics for the explanatory essay that you will have to write are what is your favorite book? Or what kind of sports do you prefer? Or something like, if you could change one major historical event, what would it be? If you could acquire one supernatural power, what would it be? Or even, learning a foreign language has become increasingly important in today's modern world. Do you agree or disagree? Now, let's take a look at writing tasks and develop some strategies which can help you on exams or just generally in your own writing. So first, the strategies for writing an exam are as such. 1, if it's on an exam or in university, read the assignment or the task carefully. If it's in your personal life, decide exactly what you want to do. Then, assuming we're in university or we're taking an exam, highlight or underline the key words. What kind of essay is it? Next, develop a thesis, your idea or your argument, which will convey the main problem. Then order your ideas to back up the problem in a logical way. Now, be sure to use linking words to make your essay flow, to make it more fluid, more natural sounding, as well as develop supporting evidence for each point you make. The general rule that we are always taught in school is that in each paragraph, for each point that you make, you should have 2 to 4 supporting points as well. So, in our essays, generally, we have 3 main points, and each of these points will have 2 to 4 supporting details added. And finally, summarize your ideas. And this will really be, if you start this at the beginning, when you start writing your essay, if you do this at the beginning, this will form the skeleton, if you would, for your conclusion later on. Now, when we're coming up with our thesis statement or with our main idea for our essay, the following phrases can come in handy, because normally we need to introduce our ideas. So, phrases like, in today's fast-moving world, or the phenomenon, issue, or problem of X is this. Also, people have always thought, believed, or agreed. Now, be careful using this one, particularly in more academic or professional writing, because here this would require some supporting evidence to prove. Now, another one, more and more people nowadays prefer. Also, the global trend is, and one of the most controversial ideas today relates to. Now, all of these in more academic or professional writing may require some supporting evidence, but in a timed essay, this will not be required. You may start writing your essay with a quotation as well. We call these informally attention grabbers. This is something that will grab or acquire the attention of your audience to make them more interested in what you're about to write. One common way of doing this is by using quotations or common proverbs. So here are some quotations of famous personalities and some general proverbs that I recommend using in any timed exams or even using in your own writing. So first, music can name the unnameable and communicate the unknowable by Bernstein. Also, I would give anything to hear and to love music, but do the best I can, it is just noise and nothing more, by Catherine the Great of Russia. Next, a proverb, if a thing is worth doing, it is worth doing well. Another quotation, the man who makes no mistakes does not usually make anything, by E.J. Phelps. Also, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others, by Martin Luther King, Jr. Next, I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to reach my destination, by Jimmy Dean. And finally, some more proverbs which you can use. Appearances are deceitful. meaning that the way something looks can lie to you. Or when in Rome, do as the Romans. When you are in an unfamiliar situation or area, behave like the people around you. So honesty is the best policy, or don't lie. Next, blood is thicker than water. And the last, don't judge a book by its cover. Now, once we have established our thesis and our main problem, we can use the following phrases to lend support to it. Phrases such as, one justification often given for something is that, or proponents would claim that, those who object to something will admit that, the problem stems from, the consequences of something are, it's vitally important, and furthermore, the most significant part is. Now, there are two other expressions I want to give you, and these would be phrases like, I am certain that, or I am inclined to believe that, or I am convinced that even. Now, in for and against essays, the following phrases are applicable to state the issue and support for or to contradict the topic. First, it is generally agreed that, or it is considered a truism, or let us start considering the facts. Or I can even make statements like, opinions differ. Many people think this way, but others do not agree. Also, it is an undeniable fact that, or doubtless, other more familiar expressions probably, on one hand and on the other hand, and even to consider the problem from another angle. And this last one is particularly useful when we are changing viewpoints or when we are moving to examine an issue from another perspective. And to summarize our ideas, we may use the following phrases. To draw a conclusion, to sum up, to cut a long story short, to put into a nutshell, or even simply to conclude. Remember, while writing or while ending an essay, do not simply state your thesis, or do not simply restate your thesis, rather. Your thesis should be clearly stated in the introduction. However, your conclusion should feature a summary of your entire essay, and a summary of your argument, really. It is also highly requested and highly advisable that you end your essay with an appropriate quotation. The impression you make on the reader at the end of your essay is just as important as the beginning, and it creates the entire impression for how they understand your argument. Basically, it's how they'll remember what you wrote about. And very, very importantly, when writing an essay, you should ensure to use the appropriate linking words to make your essay flow, to make it seem coherent and logical. And these are the following. First, you can begin simply with firstly, secondly, finally. However, I would warn you not to use these if you can avoid it, simply because they're boring. They're common. These are the words you use when you have the time or when you don't have the time, nor the energy to come up with better linking words. So if you can't think of anything else, you may say firstly, secondly, finally, but avoid them if possible. Better words are things like besides, or the other side of the coin, however, is that, or other words like although, moreover, to add information, furthermore, again, to add information, in addition to, yeah, you guessed it, to add more information, consequently, or as a result, and in particular, if I'm focusing on one particular or one specific part of my topic. That's all for today's lesson. 2 examples of essays that you may be required to write in the future you can find attached in the files which accompany this lesson. And I kindly wish you good scores and good marks in any essays that you must write which require creative writing and writing essays in general. Remember, practice makes perfect. The more you practice this skill, the more you write, the better you will write. And the more essays you write whilst preparing for any exams that you may have to take, for professional evaluations, for universities, even to enter universities, for anything, the more you write, the better you will write. And the better the chances are that you will complete any necessary tasks successfully. So practice, 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 and write and write and write. And I wish you the best of luck, and I will see you in the next lesson.